The next UFC event is headlined by 2 interim title fights. My question for you this week is, how do you feel about interim belts in the UFC? And then specifically, there are 2 headlining this fight card. What do you think about that? Let me tell you about this video series really quick. I want to give you the top 3 fights to watch beyond the main event and co-main event, so that if you just look at the poster and then watch this video, you can be like, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that Belal, remember the name Muhammad, was fighting on this card. Thank you, Flyin Brian J, for filling me in. And then I rank the fights based on, well, I don't really have a criteria. It's however excited I am for the under the radar fights at that moment. But let's get into my top 3 for UFC 236. Number 3, Eric "Ya Boy" Anders versus Khalil Roundtree. Ya Boy came into the UFC with a little bit of hype because he's a former Alabama linebacker who has a national championship on his resume. Also, his first fight in the UFC ended with a knockout victory over veteran Rafael Natal. Then in his sophomore appearance, he showcased some wrestling and some durability in a really fun fight against Marcus Perez. Then he lost a rather not that entertaining fight to Lyoto the Dragon Machida and has since knocked out Tim Williams in the 3rd round of a fight that was very tight back in August of 2018 in Lincoln, Nebraska, where he was awarded a performance bonus. The following fight, he headlined against Thiago Maheta Santos. He lost, of course, but that was awarded a fight of the night bonus. He's a pretty darn exciting fighter with a lot of raw athleticism, and even though he's older in terms of trips around the sun, he is young in terms of MMA years, and he does have the potential to turn that athleticism into a well-rounded mixed martial arts game. His opponent, Khalil Roundtree, was once lauded as a future champion by the great Anderson the Spider Silva, and also supposedly Khalil once knocked out Anderson Silva while they were training. This guy either wins in spectacular fashion or he might get finished himself. That is, if he doesn't get wrestled to death like he did in his UFC debut against Andrew El Dirty Sanchez. But in his 3rd appearance in the UFC, he did show that he can time a knee just perfectly, similar to what Edson Jr. Barbosa did to Benyel Dariush when he knocked out Daniel Jolly in just 52 seconds, while also showing that he has a mean streak. In his first 2 appearances, he didn't seem like he was that ferocious, but in his first knockout in the cage, he showed that he is one bad mamma jamma. He followed that up with a knockout over Paul Craig, and then he surprised everybody by destroying the former kickboxer Gokhan Saki. He only has 1 performance bonus to his name, but every fight that he has had in that octagon since his first appearance in the cage has been really, really exciting. Win or lose, he's gonna bring the thunder. This is a fight between a couple of guys who have a ton of potential, and it likely will not go to the judges. I absolutely love seeing finishes, and I think this fight will provide us one of those. And number 2, Ovince St. Preux versus Nikita Al Capone, the Miner, Nicky Thrills Krylov. This fight is a rematch from 2014 where Ovince St. Preux finished Krylov with a Von Preux choke in the very first round. Since that loss, Nicky Thrills has gone on to go 9-2 with knockout victories over Emmanuel Newton and Fabio Maldonado at Fight Nights Global. Sure, he has a submission loss to both Jan Blachowicz and Misha Serkinov, showing that he still doesn't have that great of submission defense, but his striking has looked absolutely fantastic. The finish of Maldonado was pure gorgeousness inside of a cage. Beyond his own finishing ability and lack of submission defense, he has also never been to the judges. And whenever that is almost a near guarantee, knock on wood, that we're not going to need the scorecards, I absolutely love it. In fact, it is minus 280 that this fight will not go the distance. Ovince St. Preux is a similar type of fighter. He either finishes in spectacular fashion, like he got that head kick on Corey Beeston 25-8 Anderson, or he gets knocked out like he did against Jimmy Manuwa. Ovince has a really herky-jerky, kind of awkward striking style that has resulted in him getting a lot of knockout or TKO victories, but he does have a very underrated submission game. Like after he got hurt by Tyson Pedro, he slapped on that straight armbar that got himself a performance of the night, which was his 6th overall post-fight bonus in the UFC. This fight may not be flying under your radar per se, but you've got a couple of post-fight bonus machines who are very unlikely to see the judges, and I'm freaking really pumped to see Nicky Thrills and Ovin St. Preux throw down for the second time and number 1. This fight is here in the number 1 spot mostly because I think it's probably flying under your radar. Even though Belal, remember the name Muhammad, has that nickname, for some reason he might not stick in your mind, and I'm here to tell you that he is going to put on a really fun performance, win or lose, against his opponent, Curtis Millender, who fought just last month and lost via rear naked choke to Easy Dos Santos. The reason why he's able to take this fight on short notice or in very short time is because he didn't take much damage against Easy Dos Santos. He showed that he has very minimal fight IQ off of his back, but when the fight is on the feet, he's an absolute terror, like he showed in his UFC debut, knocking out Thiago Alves in the 2nd round with a knee to the face, and also was awarded a performance bonus. This guy has long, dynamic kicks, and he's pretty intelligent with his striking, so if the fight stays on the feet, look out. He could put Belal to sleep, that is absolutely for certain, but he needs to make sure that he's got some intelligent takedown defense in his pocket. Although most of Muhammad's fights go the distance, he only has 4 finishes in 14 victories. I definitely remember his name from his UFC debut against Alan Brahma Joban, where he showed the most toughness I've ever seen in the cage up until that point. He may have lost, but he definitely got my attention that night. And in his sophomore appearance, he got a TKO finish over Augusto Montano, showing that not only is he physically strong and very durable, but he's also mentally tough to be able to come back from taking a lot of damage from Joban in his UFC debut and then putting a smackdown on Augusto Montano. Sure, he has a knockout loss to Vicente Luque, but I mean, that guy's an absolute terror. What I've been most impressed with is his victories over Tim Means and Jordan Meehan. When he beat the Dirty Bird with sharp, straight punches against the guy who had the reach advantage on him, I was ultra impressed. Belal has a well-rounded game that might spell disaster for the negative takedown defense of Curtis Millender, but for as long as this fight happens on the feet, the durability of Belal and the dynamism of Millender is going to put on a show for fans. And then if you're really into the intricacies and technique used inside of the cage, this one right here is the one that's flying under the radar the absolute most, and it is my number 1 fight to watch this weekend beyond the main event and co-main event. Thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. As always, I truly appreciate you. Again, tell me in the comment section down below what you think about interim title fights, and I'll see you right here on this channel for the SB Nation MMA post-fight show for UFC 236. Namaste.